This episode is brought to you by Bad Bunny and his inspirational quote, "No me busques en Instagram, mami búscame en casa, pa' que vea lo que pasa." Ay. Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, my people. Hello, my people! ¿Cómo están, damas y caballeros? Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, where I welcome people with remarkable stories for amazingly vulnerable conversations. My name is Stephan Dyer, former banker turned comedian and lifestyle entrepreneur, and this episode with Isabella Anés was remarkable. It was beautiful. You are in for a treat. Isabella Anés is a Venezuelan high-performance athlete and varsity basketball player for the Lancers women's basketball team at the University of Windsor in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. She's played basketball since the age of 6 in Venezuela, both at the Venezuelan national and international junior levels. She's played in the States and in Canada, and I don't want to tell you anything else because her story is basically a telenovela. It's like a soap opera. It's literally a telenovela of so many ups and downs. I can't even explain. There's got to be a movie made of Isabella in the future on Netflix, documentary or something. She's like Michael Jordan. It's like Michael Jordan and Tony Robbins had a daughter, and that's Isabella. This young woman is remarkable. So many ups and downs, but she never took her eye off the prize of her goal. Even if that goal sometimes changed along the way because of things that were outside of her control. They say a big part of emotional intelligence is being able to identify your feelings and emotions. And Isabella's got that. Emotional intelligence is usually a better indicator than IQ on whether a person will become successful in the long run. And Isabella has for sure got that. I mean, she's very smart. She's like very athletic, but I think her emotional intelligence is her biggest, her maturity is just off the wall. I told her already in the episode, in person, and after this episode, you will probably want to tell her too. We are rooting for her and are really proud of who she's become in this process so far. I mean, there's so many quotes that she drops in the episode, but I'm so excited that I got to meet her mother at an event. And as a proud mother, she told me about her daughter, and I was like, I need to meet this girl. And I'm so happy I had her on. If you like this episode, which you will, share it, please, at whichever social media you prefer. Give us a review on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. And our favorite, screenshot the episode on your, take a picture of the episode on your cell phone and upload, put it on your Instagram stories and tag us at Stephan Dyer and at Isabella with a double L, Isabella Anés, ANES _. So at Isabella Anés _. You are in for a treat, ladies and gentlemen. She is Venezuelan. She's a high-performance athlete. She's brilliant. Enjoy this episode with Isabella Anés like I know you will. In 3, 2, 1, go. Bienvenidos to the Stephan Dyer Podcast. I have here the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable, the Venezuelan Michael Jordan.
Too much there.
Isabella Anés, ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing?
Good, how are you, Stephan? Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm so excited. One of the traditions of the podcast is telling you why I invited you. And we were talking behind the scenes and everything. And we have a lot of things in common. First of all, Latina from Venezuela. I'm from Costa Rica, so we have something in common. My wife is Venezuelan. In fact, everybody in my vicinity is Venezuelan. Like I'll lift
That's
this
awesome.
mug, and there's a Venezuelan on there. Everybody.
Well, that
everybody
makes you partly Venezuelan there. You're getting there.
I feel like I've been to Venezuela, even though I haven't. My son is half Venezuelan.
Oh.
Another thing. You came to Canada. You moved away from Venezuela into North America at age 15 by yourself. Same as me. You came to play basketball. I came to Quebec through a very small partial scholarship to play soccer and academic scholarship as well. I mean, it was only like a 25% scholarship, but it was the biggest that they allowed. You came to play basketball. Then you've moved around with your parents. You've sacrificed a lot of things to be where you are, and the thing that I feel that we have the most in common, which is kind of tooting my own horn here, but it's you are very mature for your age.
Oh, I truly appreciate that.
And I don't know, probably a lot of people have told you this, but
yeah.
We're gonna get into that a lot today, and I'm very excited to have. Oh, also, ACL tear.
Oh yeah,
ACL tear right here as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think like, oh, whatever, it's just a tear, like, oh, whatever, ligament, whatever. But you have no idea.
Yeah,
no idea. The mental strength, the mental toughness it takes to overcome a lot of these obstacles. Not just the tear, but as an immigrant moving away from your hometown. Also, a lot of Venezuelans don't move because they want to. They move because they have to.
They have to,
exactly. And that is another thing that... So, I mean, all these mental and physical and life hurdles that life has thrown at you have made you become who you are, and I'm very excited to talk to you about that today. So we're going to start at the beginning. Where did your love for basketball start?
Honestly, I've really thought about that question, and I just think it has always been there. I don't remember my life without basketball, and I don't think, even though my dad played throughout his young adulthood, I would say he quit because of a knee injury as well.
ACL?
I don't think it was
MCL?
an ACL.
Okay.
He doesn't even know at that point. He didn't even care. But yeah, he also had to stop because of that. But I don't think he like forced it into me. Apparently I always had like a natural athletic ability, and that was picked up by one of my PE teachers when I was
What's his name?
Well, we call him Ñango. It's a very Latino expression. But yeah, he saw me when I was like in JK, what they call here JK, in PE class, like pick up a ball and dribble a little bit, and that's how an invitation to then attend a basketball practice came through my parents, like.
Yeah.
And then after that, I mean, the rest is history. I went to the first one, the second one.
But why not? I mean, Venezuela is pretty big on baseball.
Yes.
I mean, you're in Latin America, so I guess there's some soccer as well. Like, obviously, your dad's love for basketball maybe influenced that? Or was it that as soon as you started, it was game over for the other sports?
No, it wasn't game over for the other sports. I do have to say, I was lucky enough to try a lot of sports throughout my childhood.
Yeah.
So I started with basketball, but then tennis came on the way. I swam for a little while as well.
Oh, wow.
I did even gymnastics, karate. Like my parents put me in a lot of extracurricular things, and I would say tennis was also a sport that I really, really enjoyed. But as I tell my friends nowadays, like basketball was like my dance floor. Like I just felt very comfortable there. I didn't care who was looking, who was attending to my games, and I didn't...
That flow state.
Exactly. I did not feel like fear towards my competition or anything. It was just the stage where I felt comfortable. Swimming, on the other hand, I could not do it. I did one competition. Never again. I have a lot of respect for swimmers just because of how much courage it takes to just stand on the whatever you call that. And then, yeah, it's just a lot of eyes on you. I did not like that. And tennis, it was not as comfortable as basketball was for me.
I mean, it definitely meant to be because as a point guard, it's all eyes on you.
Yes.
Like you're bringing the ball up, and at the same, like swimming, yeah. But there's like all eyes on the 10 people competing, you know?
That is very true.
So I mean, it was just meant to be. Who were your favorite players growing up? Like women's WNBA, NBA players?
Well, WNBA was not a thing that we could watch back home. So I would have reference only from NBA players and local players. So NBA players, I would say I really like Derrick Rose. Like during his like prime time, he was like, wow. And I really liked the court vision and passing ability.
ACL tear as well. Derrick Rose.
Yeah, eventually, yes.
That's incredible.
From there, there's a bunch of other injuries, which is very sad. But anyways, another player I really liked was Rajon Rondo.
Yes.
Oh,
Celtics and then Lakers. Yes.
Exactly. Yes. So I think his core vision.
He's a point guard.
Yes. I really looked up to point guards. I just really liked it since I started playing. So those were the two players I liked the most. LeBron was also very big, but I was never a huge fan of him just because of his personality. It just didn't go with me.
But it's crazy because all the things that you talk about on your Instagram and mental strength and influencing your community.
Yes.
Like one of the things about LeBron, he gets a lot of hate or whatever, but the guy has shut people up since he's a teenager. All expectations on him. Dad, a husband, player, I promise school, so many scholarships.
Yes.
Not like one big scandal or any that I know. And the guy just keeps 37 years old, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's another did you like Kobe Bryant coming up?
Oh, yeah, but I was not like a huge fan of him either. I think I became a huge fan later on.
Yeah.
After I learned a little bit more about like his mentality and as I mature as well, understanding how much it took him to actually get to where he got and to accomplish what he did. That's when I really started admiring him. And then, when...
Do you remember where you were when he passed away?
I was at home. I was about to leave to church. I won't forget that. I was about to leave to church, and then my brother was laying down just watching TV, and he told me, Isabella, Kobe just died. And I closed the door. I was leaving. I was about to leave. I closed the door, and I had to sit down on my couch, and I said, there's no way. There's no way. And I had to take like a 15-minute thing. I was late to church. I did not end up going, but I had to take a break to process it. And I just couldn't, I couldn't understand why. Like, that's one of those that you ask, like, why? Good people.
To me, to be honest, I don't remember exactly because that week was a blur to me because my son was born.
Oh,
and I remember like, oh my God, Kobe just died, but Liam is about to be born. So, I mean, it was, I didn't have time to process it because the most important moment of my life was about to happen. Yeah. So, and then it's just been like a tsunami grabbed me of like no sleeping for weeks and but it's obviously the best moment of my life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you grew up in growing up in Venezuela, Puerto Ordaz. You're playing basketball a lot. You end up playing for Venezuela. I mean, locally for your state.
Yes.
You end up playing on a national level. Then you end up playing for the national team in other countries like Argentina, Ecuador, Paraguay. But as this happening simultaneously, you're like, I need to go to the States because this is where everything is happening.
Yes.
If I want to achieve my goals. So what was this conversation like with your parents? Where did this US dream, the American dream come from? And what goals did you have for yourself? Because at age 12, this is, I mean, you're not a small girl, but you're not an adult either. So
yeah,
this is a lot of maturity again to understand where you want to go. A lot of kids are just playing PlayStation at that age, you know?
Yes. No, there is actually a lot of factors that go behind like that determination. But to start, to kind of give you a bit of a good image of it in a bigger picture, I would say like when I was little, since I started to play very young basketball, I knew that there's not one Venezuelan that has made it to the WNBA. There's not, to this day, there's none. So when I was very, very little, I used to tell my parents, I'm going to be the person. Like, I'll get there. So since that, I don't know, let's say 8, 7 years old, 9, whatever, that was something that was in my mind. Like, I'm going to get to the States. I'm going to get there just because I want to be the first Venezuelan playing in the WNBA. So the American dream became part of my life at that stage, like very early, right? But it was nothing that I would take super, super serious. I was just like, okay, I'll just keep on doing my thing, enjoying right now, and then see what happens later on, right? But then as I grew older, getting to those 11, 12, 13 years old, things in Venezuela at the same time started to deteriorate a lot. So socially, economically, 2014, exactly. 2014 was like the boom of like all the riots and all of that.
Yeah.
Leopoldo and whatever. So that also changed a lot our lifestyle in Venezuela. And I did not want it to leave in that environment anymore. So those two things coming together, the American dream since I had memory and the deterioration of my country, were like the motor. I call it the motor for me to be like, okay, I'm going to find a way out of here. And the way or where I want to go is the States. That's where I want to go, right? So yeah, that became my dream when I was like 12. And I was like, there were other guys in my club that I saw got recruited to move to the States and play in New York was one of them. Oswald Caraballo is his name. Utah was another of my friends' like location where they end up going. So I was like, I want to do that as a girl. I don't care.
Yeah.
There is not
so important to have others around you that have done it. You know? It's so important.
It's huge because seeing that they could do it gave me all the confidence that I needed to say, okay, I can do it as well.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of trying and finding the ways. So I didn't know how, but I was going to do it. So that summer when I was like 12, there was an American scout that came to my school and he hosted a summer camp.
Ordaz?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. His name was Terry Layton. He came there and he hosted a summer camp. And I knew that was important.
Yeah.
American Scout. I mean, you don't get that a lot, right? So I gave my best in that summer camp. And after it, he pulled me aside and he talked to me. He was like, you have a lot of talent. I really like what I saw from you. But you're very young for me to help you get anywhere. So I know he heard from my coach my aspirations. And he was like, I will help you as soon as you have the age. Right? So keep on studying English, keep on having good grades and doing your thing here, keep on playing, developing. And when you're 15, reach out to me. He gave me his contact card.
Wow.
So I never forgot that. I put it actually on my night table in a little transparent box. So I would look at it every day. So I would know where I was going to. Right. And over those years from 12 to 15, I was very dedicated to my craft first. And I was blessed with the opportunities of representing my country, of traveling internationally and getting a better curriculum.
Yeah. Huge.
So, yeah. So as I told you behind the scenes, my birthday was in December. Well, it is in December. And I turned 15 December of 2016. In January of 2017, I sent him an email. I had not forgotten about
the email was on the draft.
Yes,
for months.
It was already. It did take me like at least a week to write it. I do remember because English was still not a strength of mine. And it did take me a while to write it up. And I was like, he's not even going to remember me. So I had to attach a picture and everything just to make sure. I was like, hey, this is me.
Yeah, Google Translate, copy and paste, then edit, then call a friend. Does this make sense?
Exactly. It was a whole process. But yeah, I ended up sending
He remembered you?
He did. He actually did. And at that point, my dad and I had also gathered some documents. Like we had put together like videos, and my dad had recorded a lot and I edited all the videos that I had. So I had game film, and we also made like a short curriculum.
Yeah.
That we sent out, and he was like, this information that you're sending me is amazing. I'm so happy to see what you have accomplished over this year, and I'll for sure help you. So
wow. And then what happened?
Well, after that, this was January, as I told you. He was like, just let me reach out to some schools and I'll keep you posted, right? As the year went on.
The next day, you're like, have you heard back from this?
It did put a lot in my mind, but I just tried to keep busy with like school at home, my friends and whatnot. But that kept on going in the back of my head. And yeah, early that year also, I think it was March, we got called from the national team to prepare for a competition that was going to be in June in Argentina. It's called the FIBA 16U Women's Americas competition. So it involves all countries from America in general, North, Central, and South.
Wow.
Yes. So that was going to be hosted in Buenos Aires in Argentina. So we had to get together in Caracas and start practicing and start preparing for that, right? So that became then the center of my attention. I knew in the back that was going.
Yeah.
But I was okay, I'll just wait and to hear from him, right? So I focused on that. I went to Caracas, spent some time there.
How did the Buenos Aires tournament go?
It was a great experience, I do have to say. That's probably the experience where I learned the most playing for the national team. Just because the level of competition was huge. It was a big jump from...
Who was in your group?
Before.
What countries were in your group?
So we opened against Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was that?
We got destroyed. We got blown.
Like 100 to 30?
No, it was... I'm pretty sure we lost by 38. I remember that was the difference. And we scored 38 points, I believe. So
76-38.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah, that was the score. Yeah. So it was a great competition. I mean, we played them. We played Mexico later on, Argentina.
How did you do against Mexico?
I against Mexico we lost too. we won against Puerto Rico though.
That's pretty good. Puerto Rico is.
Yes.
There's some. JJ Barea is from
Puerto Rico, yeah.
Right?
And the women's have done very good. Like, they went to the Olympics recently, so
really good.
Yeah. So it was a great experience overall. I mean, that's the competition, the level of competition that makes you better.
That you want.
Yeah, exactly. So that was just amazing. And I went at the beginning of June to that competition, and then by that point of that year, we had already heard back from
No way.
Barry. Yeah.
And what did he say?
And he had said that
Your English is very good.
Besides that, he did mention that, I do have to say. But he had found 3 schools, 3 options.
Wow.
And put me in contact with all of them and my parents, of course. But I was the mediator because my parents' English is not as well. Yeah. It's not as good, right? So by the time I returned from Argentina, we looked at the options, evaluated or whatnot, and decided that the best one was coming from a school called Sunrise Christian Academy in Wichita, in Kansas. So, I mean, that was huge. That was huge. The scholarship I got from them was not full ride, but it covered 80% of what we had to pay. So it was a big deal for me.
And like knowing you, well, obviously I don't know you, but I know your story.
Yeah.
Like there was not a doubt in your mind that you would make it. That you would make it when, I mean, if you got to go, like you would do anything that was required. So you're 15.
Yeah.
You go to Kansas, and was it hard to move to North America at age 15 by yourself? Was this like a boarding school environment?
Yes.
You slept at the school?
Basically, not technically at the school, but the way it works there, it is a boarding school. They have a lot of international students there that come from different reasons, whether it's just an exchange or for basketball or sports or whatever. Yeah. But what they do is that they own houses around campus. So they put like house parents in houses, and they divide the houses by gender. So the girls' houses and the boys' houses, right? And you just get paired with other girls. And I had only one roommate, but in the house there was 5 of us students, and then 2 house parents. They lived there with us. So it's basically like having not mom and dad, because it's just they were 2 ladies. Yeah. But it's just, you live with them, you have to report to them, and they take care of you whenever like you need to go grocery shopping or something. Yeah. They are the ones that you have to go to. But yeah, that's the environment. It's basically within the school.
I know exactly the environment because I
Yeah.
did the same exact thing.
Yes,
I
yeah.
lived at boarding school. One roommate, bunk bed, and house parents.
Yeah.
But the difference between gender. So I was with guys, although there were girls in the school as well. And the difference was that my house was like 20 guys.
Oh, okay.
And the school was like 250 people, but not all of them lived in the school. Some people lived in the town, in the local town. Some people lived 20 minutes away. Half the school lived on campus, and half didn't.
Okay.
What was the hardest part about moving at that age to another country?
Yes.
Different everything, really.
Yeah. Going back to your first question was how hard it was.
Yeah, how hard was it?
It actually was not too hard. I have looked back on it and it's just like, wow, that's impressive. Like it didn't take me too long to adapt. I think first I was very lucky to land in a very good community. So they embraced me since day one. They really made sure I felt welcome. I felt like in a family, even though my family was not there. So they made it easy in that sense. And by they, I mean my teammates and my coach and all of them at the school. But I did face some challenges, of course. I mean, I had gone to the same school. I had lived in the same house and the same community my whole life up until that point. So changing language first was not easy. Like, I remember stepping into my biology class and being like, I did not understand a single word of what he said. Like after the lecture, I just went to the bathroom and cried because I was like, I did not understand anything. Like, no, it was hard. I was also put with regular students, so
yes.
With regular American students, precisely because I had to take an English test written, and it was good. Like I tested very good, so they were like, "Oh no, she's capable."
Cool.
She's capable of handling it. And then, after that class, I remember I was so frustrated. So definitely getting used to the language took me a couple months. I wouldn't say even weeks. Like the first 2 or 3 months was the transition there.
You talked on the court. That's how you talked.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
That's how, yeah. And other than that, I would say just establishing good friendships was the other challenge, because as much as you are welcome to a place, like it's different to really create a good bond, right? That takes time, and being away from family, you really need that support very quick. So that's the second biggest challenge, is being away from family and establishing the new connections.
I wrote that question, and I know based on, I'm telling you, I saw that video of yours, the decision, the one where you say, well, we're not going to say what you said because we're going to get there eventually, but I'm like, the next chapter video.
Yes.
I asked that question, was it hard? And I know you were going to say it wasn't hard because your level of maturity is just above your age. And to me, it wasn't hard either.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask me this question, but I'm telling you, based on what I've seen in your videos and what I know of you, I know that your mental toughness, obviously, like, we'll cry and we'll have hardships and the language barrier, but mentally, you're just like laser focused.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's not common to have that.
Yeah.
So the more you mature, I mean, I'm not 50 years old, I'm 34, but I know a little bit of what you're going through because I've been through it as well. And the more you age, the more you're going to understand. I know you do right now, but it's going to become even more evident that this is your superpower. Because you might think like, yeah, other people have it, but they don't. Not a lot of people have it. This is your superpower. It also has its shadows.
Yeah.
Because being laser focused and disciplined and determined can make you sometimes. Not everybody moves at our speed. You know, not everybody has our determination. So when you hold people to those expectations, sometimes not everybody is like us. You know.
Yeah.
So, I'm very excited to continue this interview. Okay, so 2 years later, you take a leap of faith and move to Toronto.
Yes.
And why was this decision? How did this evolve? Because from Kansas to Toronto, it seems like pretty random. Like, why not Kansas to Florida or New York or Chicago or LA, or Venezuela? Well, I know Venezuela wasn't an option, but how did this decision come about?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it does seem very random, especially going back to what I told you at the beginning, my dream of playing in the WNBA.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the States. What are you doing then moving to Canada? And a lot of people have asked me that because even when I first thought about it, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't at all. But it came down to being surrounded with people that also wanted to go and play. Well, my next goal when I step at Sunrise became to get recruited to play university basketball.
Division One,
yeah, NCAA. That's where I wanted to go, and the reason being.
And for the people listening who don't have a lot of idea of sports or whatever, in the States, which is obviously the best country for professional basketball in the world, NCAA is the governing body of the students, the university students.
Yeah.
That then get drafted to become professional under the NBA, which is where the Warriors play, the Chicago Bulls, the Golden State, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the WNBA, which is the equivalent of men's. But it's very rare. I mean, obviously, it happens a lot, but it's rare to get recruited from countries that are not the States, and you still have to go 99% of the times through the draft to go into a professional team.
Exactly.
So Division 1 is the highest level of basketball and sports in the NCAA.
Exactly.
Not a lot of Division 2 and Division 3 players get drafted into the NBA compared to Division 1.
Exactly.
And that's why that was one of your goals.
Exactly. That couldn't explain it better. That kind of like summarizes why Division 1 was my target. So in the program that I was at in Sunrise, like Sunrise was a great school, great communities, I was telling you, but the girls that were there did not see themselves playing Division 1 basketball. They just saw basketball as a hobby. It was not as it was for me. For me, basketball was my way into education.
Yeah.
And second, it was at that point, it was almost like my everything. Like I had been playing my entire life. So I was very dedicated. I had no other hobbies. Like a lot of my teammates in Sunrise were also part of like musicals and did other stuff, right?
Yeah.
As much as I also tried other sports, at that point, basketball was like my center. So
it sounds like it didn't align to being a Division 1 and the first Venezuelan in the WNBA.
Exactly.
That needs a level of commitment where you need to double down on it.
Exactly. So I knew that during my time at Sunrise, yes, I was growing and I was becoming a better player just because I was playing a lot more than I did in Venezuela. But to get to the next level, to the Division 1 basketball, I needed to be surrounded by people that also wanted to get there, or I would say, compete against players that are at that caliber, and
which would allow you to be scouted and recruited. So, which would allow you to be seen by scouters that make the decisions and recommendations to be recruited by Division 1.
By Division 1, exactly. Because at Sunrise, we didn't get too much exposure to university scouts. So that was my target. I just wanted to play against better players, to become a better player, and to get scouted.
Yeah.
And punch my ticket and get an offer from whatever school, whichever would be best for me, and then make a decision based on that, right? As to where I would go for university.
And when this is happening, you are 16, 17?
I was, 16, turning into 17. That was my grade, in between my grade 10 and 11 year.
And this is 2019?
Yes. Well, the moment I started thinking about this was 2018.
Okay.
First.
Nice.
And then, 2019, I was just solely focused on that. Because that time was also ticking, right? So, in the sense of like, I was relatively close to graduating.
Yes.
Because I was part of the 2020
stressful.
class.
It's very stressful.
So, and even as an immigrant, you know, you have to find something quick because our visas expire, and then what are you going to do?
So and then the money, you can't just afford to, I'll do another year.
Exactly.
It's not an option.
It's not that easy, right? So I started to think about those factors. And I had a lot of friends in Wichita, in Kansas, that were from Canada. Some guy friends that were from Canada, because the guys or the men's program at Sunrise is amazing. If you don't know about it and you're listening to this, go and check it out. It's amazing. It's honestly very good. But they told me, they were like, hey, check out girls basketball in Ontario. They knew my parents were here already because my parents had moved in 2017, just when I moved to the States. They moved at the same time.
Okay.
Basically looking for better opportunities for themselves. And they decided Canada because my brother was already here.
I met your brother. I love him. Great guy.
Yes. My brother's so nice. But yeah, my brother was already here. So they also came here to, visit. They're still visiting today. They have not returned since. But yeah, they were basically looking for better opportunities. So I had told that to some of my friends there, and they were like, it only makes sense for you to play over there. I mean, your family's there, basketball's better, check it out. So I started to do some research and whatnot, and came across first an AAU program, which is a program for summer basketball, that was very good and that I wanted to play for, because summer basketball it's probably the best way to get exposure to recruiters. That's those are like the events that recruiters attend solely to recruit.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Like, they just go there to scout and find players.
Yeah, so the comedy equivalent would be like a showcase.
Exactly.
So you're just showcasing, and people are there to invite you to festivals. Or festivals are like the best way.
Exactly.
It's not like your local comedy club where like there may be 10 other people. So for the people listening, there's two types of basketball. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the school basketball. The season. But then school ends and there's a break in May or April, sometimes May, and then you get into the summer.
Exactly.
So then the summer has its own basketball.
Exactly.
Which is called AAU.
AAU basketball.
And these have events where, because you're going to be playing summer ball, specific tournaments, sometimes Nike, Adidas, Under Armour sponsors some of these events, and the recruiters and scouts are there specifically to hand out invites sometimes.
Correct. Because if you think about it, they're also in their off season, and they are also transitioning a school year. So they are normally losing like their seniors or whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's why those events are hosted over that period of time. So it's a win-win in all senses, right? So
what was this team called in Canada?
So yeah, the team I came across is called Canada Elite. And I reached out to them, and I also reached out to the school that I attended here, showing my interest, telling them like my goals, where I wanted to go, and they were very helpful in that sense. They were like, "Oh yeah, we would love to have you." I came and tried out for the summer team first. They loved it, and I was offered a spot on the team, so that was huge for me. That was huge. I was like, wow, we're going in the right direction now, right?
And it's so validating. A lot of people who are like don't get it, but it's, even if you know you're good, it's so validating to be accepted on a team in North America.
Absolutely.
Which it's like, yeah, I was right all along.
Yeah.
I trusted myself. I'm here, and others are confirming. Like, you're like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I told you guys. I knew it all along. It's incredibly validating.
Yeah, and not only that, I've actually really, I wouldn't say struggled, but I've never been a very confident player, like, to show it like that. Like, be cocky on the court. Like, you would think about, like, I don't know, I have a soccer analogy, Cristiano, that he knows that he is, you know. I've never been like that. I've never liked it. I've never been the type of player that talks trash and say, "Oh, I'm better than you." No, but what I have always been is a dream chaser. So, as you're saying, it is very validating to see that opportunities that you long for and that you really want come when you look for them.
Yeah, it's so good.
It is huge. It is huge. So those little steps that I kept on taking throughout those years kept on giving me that confidence that I need to say, okay, not only can I play, but I can dream. And I can go after my goals. And I can actually accomplish them. It is only up to me to do that.
So good. So you get on the team, and then what happens?
Okay, so I got on the team, came here for the summer of 2019 to play basically, that was in between my grade 11 and grade 12. So it's to play your last summer. The last summer you can play.
Big.
It's huge. It's the last summer you can play to get recruited, because after grade 12, you have no more summers. You're supposed to know by then where you're going for university, right? So I knew that was my chance. And then after that, I had decided that if I got my visa approved, because I came here during the summer without changing my status yet, if I got my student visa approved here in Canada, I was going to stay and then attend school to finish my grade 12 here and play at a more competitive league. I landed here in May 30th of 2019. I got to play a few like local games here and there during like June and prepare for the summer season. And July 10th was our first game. I knew there were a couple of schools already that had shoot me some emails that told me like they were interested in watching me play, and they were looking forward to it, and they were going to be in my game or whatnot. So I was so excited.
What number do you wear?
And that team, I wore number 3, but it was given to me. I did not choose. I did not choose that number. My number, I normally use number 4. Reason being, that was normally the smallest uniform back home, and I was the smallest in the team, so I always wore number 4. But when it comes to the Venezuelan national team, I wear number 13, and reason being is because I was 13 the first time. The first time I played for them.
That's really good.
So, July 10th was our first game. I come in. I think I played 3 possessions, and I tore my ACL.
No,
right there, like first game.
No way.
First time I was gonna be scouted or officially scouted like that. Gone, like that.
Were you just by yourself, or was it typically like ACL injuries happen where you're pivoting on the knee?
Yeah, I was cutting basically. I was defending a girl, so it was by myself, but I was pivoting on that leg. So
was it left or right?
It was right. So I wasn't necessarily, that was not my pivot leg, but I was taking a long step with that leg. And basically, it's hard to explain without you looking.
Yeah.
But I was moving right as I was defending and closing out like the line for one of the girls that I was defending. And my whole body was moving right, but my knee buckled left.
Yeah.
So it buckled towards the opposite side that I was moving.
Yeah.
So it was painful. I'd never failed.
Me neither.
Oh,
me neither.
So much. Ooh, it's horrible. I don't wish that upon anybody. It's very painful.
Me neither. And then what happens, because it's very hard to explain when these things happen, because first of all, well, at least for me, it's like, why me?
Yes.
Like, why does this have to happen to me? Like, everything I've been through to come here, everything I've sacrificed. I mean, I'm not wishing it on others, but like, why did it have to happen now? Why to me? And now the future is not exciting.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the train is going without you, you know?
Yes. Oh, that's a beautiful analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's going and you're stuck.
Yes.
And as you know, these opportunities, you can't be drafted when you're 55, you know? Like,
yes.
There's a specific, I mean, obviously there's outliers, but what was going through your mind?
Oh, I think all those questions that you just said went through my mind, but especially for me, I'm a big believer. I really do think that God is the one who created us and that puts like a little purpose on us, like in each of our lives. So my question at the moment was like, God, like, why now?
Yeah.
Like, after all the pain or whatnot, of course, like at the moment of the court, I was trying to process actually what happened. I was like, okay, I'll probably be fine. I walked up the court. I was helped, but I tried to walk up just to show that I was like strong because I knew there were eyes on me at that moment. But yeah, as I got into my hotel room, it was like, why now?
Yeah.
Like, I can't afford an injury right now. We cannot do that because this is my only chance to get recruited. And if I don't get recruited, then we have no ways of paying university as an international student.
Yeah.
There's no way. So what am I going to do with my future?
The stakes are very high. And
exactly. So not only that, but then it's not even like I can stay and work. Like I could not. That was where my life was depending.
Yeah.
So why now was the question for me. So I remember calling one of my best friends from Venezuela also. He's playing Division 1 right now in APSU University, so Austin P State University in Tennessee. And I told him what happened, and he was the one that kind of, I always call it, helped me to touch ground. And he was like, God has put you in that position for a reason. He has not abandoned you yet. So keep pushing. Like, you might not understand it right now. I don't understand it either. I don't know. And it sucks that it happened to you. But it happened. Accept it. Like,
exactly.
It happened. You have to just move on from it. And of course, I mean, he did let me like cry it out and heard me out. But he also gave me that push of like, okay, take the time that you need to process it, but make sure you move on from it and keep on pushing. So I was like, okay, that's what I'll do. And that's what I put my faith on. I was like, well, I truly believe that as God has opened opportunities for me up until now, he will continue to do that as long as I keep on looking for them.
Yeah, that's
so
important.
I'm not
Very
going to be
important.
the victim here. It's
Key.
This is hard, but it's about how I react to it. So let's keep on moving forward. So my focus then is stop being university, is stop being like, what am I going to do in my future? It only became, how am I going to heal from this?
Yeah, it's so important, especially as an athlete and having so much pressure because the stakes were very high. It's so important to focus on the present.
Yes.
Because the future can be very overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And I just really want to highlight this because for people who maybe are not immigrants, they don't understand. But for the people who are, and maybe a lot of people who listen, I know people who listen to my podcast are immigrants. It's, for example, for me, I was one of the only people in my group of friends in university who finished in 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't afford doing a fifth.
Exactly.
And they're like, dude, you're boring. Like, why aren't we partying? And I'm like, I can't party. Like, I'm not. Yeah, I'll party a couple times, but I'm not partying the entire week. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, no, you're too serious. Like, you have to enjoy life. Yeah. I'll enjoy it, but my dad's not going to pay for a fifth, can't pay for a fifth year or summer school.
Exactly.
I can't pay for summer school. Like, this is my one shot. And obviously it's a big part of why I am the way I am and why I've become successful in other realms, not just business, but in comedy. Because as you know, I quit my bank job to become a comedian, and it's a big shift. It's like Kansas to Canada. It's like Venezuela to Kansas. It's very random.
Yeah.
But it's not the thing. It's who you are in the process. It's the discipline. It's the habits behind it. It's the mental toughness. So, it's like I told you, it's not common, and it's a heavy burden to carry because I can imagine. You talk to your parents all the time. You see what they've sacrificed.
Oh, yeah.
You see your brother also supporting you in this journey. And it sometimes feels like now they gotta support me even more when I didn't ask for this injury, you know?
Absolutely.
And pretty much on the court was your ticket. Like, it was the golden ticket.
Yes.
It must have been, but that mental strength is something you can't buy.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And it's pretty good. Okay, so then What happened after? So you get surgery.
Yes.
In October of 2019. You miss your senior season.
Yes.
6 months in recovery, and I'm not even gonna go into the recovery because we would do like 100 episodes on this. But I'm just gonna say that the hardest part is nobody cares.
Yeah.
Just your family.
Yeah.
Like nobody's watching. Nobody's like supporting. It's like if you're not killing it, nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when you really learn who you are. Mm-hmm. Like
that's huge.
What was that for you?
That's huge. Let me just add on that. Yes. So actually for me, at the moment that the injury occurred, as I was telling you, basketball was the everything at that point. And when it was taken away from me so quick, so unexpectedly. Like, I had just moved here because of basketball. For basketball. Like, so unexpectedly, basketball had become my identity.
Oh, I was going to say that. Yeah.
So, I remember finding myself right after surgery crying in my like, my bed and saying, who am I anymore?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, it was like Isabella was taken away. But that's when I realized that cannot be the case.
Uh-huh.
Isabella has to be more than a basketball player. Because I am. I'm alive. I am not dead. Isabella has to be more than just that. And what really helped me to understand that was that's why I call it the blessing and the curse. Like, my injury today, I look back on it and I think it's one of the biggest blessings that I've had.
Same.
It's just that to make my injury happen, since I have no insurance or no support whatsoever, we had to make a GoFundMe to get some funds and be able to afford the surgery, right? I say we because my coaches helped me a lot in setting that up. And of course, to get the support that we needed, we had to kind of share my story because, like, how were people going to support me if I didn't know who I was, right? And I had just landed here, so I had not met that many people here in Canada. And through a video that we created, the receptiveness that video got and the feedback that I got from people really showed me that what I was doing mattered.
Yes.
And in a way that I was inspiring other people. And I did not know I was capable of doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, up until that point, I was just grinding because of not selfish reasons, but those were my goals. Those were my dreams. I was just following my dreams. But I had no clue that the actions or the steps that I was taking to follow my dreams were impacting those around me.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, that's where it kind of like told me, oh, Isabella, you're more than just basketball. Like, you are a person that is inspiring others to then dream also in whatever they want. It doesn't have to be basketball. Exactly. So that gave me a lot of purpose, a lot of like, okay, that's going to be the reason why I'm going to push through the injury. It was not anymore to play again. Yeah, I wanted to play again. But what I ultimately then wanted to do was to continue to inspire other people to then pursue their dream and find what they feel passionate about.
Yeah.
So that only came through that hardship. That realizing that I'm not just a player, that our actions matter. That only came through that. So through the recovery process, that was the why behind each day that I had to do my exercises. You know, at the beginning, the exercises are like so basic. Lift your leg, put your leg down. They're so basic, but that became the why, the motor that, okay, keep pushing, because it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it.
And then the crazy part is your weak leg becomes stronger than the other leg.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
And I just want to highlight the identity part because it doesn't just happen with athletes. It happens with lawyers. Like, a lot of lawyers, they're lawyers in the office, they're lawyers at the party, they're lawyers at home, they're lawyers in the supermarket, and that's their identity. And to me, I didn't know it as much because I love soccer so much. I was so in it. Like, I was so close to the wall that I couldn't see the entire landscape, you know?
Yeah.
Where my self-worth was very attached to my soccer, and whether if I had a shitty game, I'd be like miserable that day.
Yeah.
All my friends I made through soccer. All like my coolness, or like I was a soccer guy at school, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that because I love soccer. I played my entire life.
Yeah.
And like I found that like maybe girls found me attractive because I was like an athlete or a soccer guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And like everything I did was watch soccer, play soccer, dress like a soccer guy.
Exactly.
And then when I came to university, it was a big blow at the beginning because I played rugby in one of the seasons, and I had I had 3 hernias. So when I came to U of T in that summer, August 21st of 2006, right before university, I had to discover the hernias. And and then I couldn't play for 6 months, so I missed all the tryouts. I missed all the games, and I'm like, who am I if I don't? How I met people was through soccer.
Yes.
So I'm trying to be, and then in my mind I'm like, all these people have no idea how cool I am and like what a soccer player I am. And it doesn't matter to them, but to me it was a big deal. And then I play, I'm doing really well. I get recruited for not the varsity team because I missed those tryouts, but for like the tri-campus team. And then the captain of the varsity team sees me. I scored like 6 goals in one game.
Oh wow!
And then invites me to the tryouts, and then a lot of things happen, and then I tear my ACL in 2009, and then all over again. I'm like, who am I?
Yes.
These people have no idea how cool I am.
Yeah.
And like my entire life has been put into this. You know, obviously I was a good student and I needed to get good grades to be able to continue, because otherwise this is my ticket. Like I can't go home. I can't go back home.
Yeah.
And everybody back home is like rooting for you, you know, because they follow your journey. So it's not like a bad weight on your shoulders, but it is weight. It is weight.
Yeah.
It is weight, and it's a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely.
So I totally get where you're coming from. And then what happens? 6 months in recovery, then COVID hits.
COVID hit right there. So at that moment, it was more. I took COVID actually as God keep on telling us, like, there are things you can't control. Like, there are just things you're not able to control.
And more important than basketball, yeah.
Yes, that really showed me, put a lot of things into perspective. Like, life is more than just basketball. It was like underlining or highlighting what had happened before.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's one of the main things I realized through my injury, especially because timing and whatnot, is just that life is unexpected. It's very unexpected, right? So, 6 months in, COVID hit. At that point, I was just getting back into cutting exercises and jumping, and that's when fun was going to start. Like, real fun things were going to start. So, couldn't do much. I did make sure, though, that I was doing what I was supposed to do. So, I was just starting to see my trainer in person to do these exercises. Well, I said, okay, we're hopping into calls or whatnot, and I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do, my exercises and all that from home. So,
were you in school at this time?
I was in school. Yeah, I was doing still my grade 12. So
in Ontario.
Yeah, in Ontario. So as I told you, like right after I got hurt, thankfully, the school that had recruited me from here, from Canada, still took me.
Wow.
Even though I was hurt. That was huge. And
what's the name of the school?
It's called J. Addison School. And the girls, J. Addison Prep. They're part of the OSBA league. And to this day, I thank Coach Chris for doing that. Because otherwise...
They didn't have to.
They didn't have to. They could have said, oh, you're hurt, bye. Like, no. But they still took me because, injuries are part of the game. But they didn't have to. Big shout out to them. No, definitely. I'm so grateful. But yeah, COVID came. We all went home. We had our March break, and our March break just ended up being the whole school year. And that summer, I remember What happened that summer? Well, actually, right before COVID hit,
Yeah.
I had just gone and visited Brown University.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, to kind of bring you back to the story behind Brown University, I had played a little bit before I got hurt here in Canada. So, in June of 2019, right before the injury happened in July. And I was getting recruited by Windsor, the University of Windsor, towards the end of 2019. Okay?
Okay.
So, I had gotten hurt, and they were still interested on me as well, right? So they were still interested because the coach met me, and she was like, "I really like you, not only as a player, but as a person." So I went to visit the University of Windsor in February of 2020, right before the pandemic. And when I came back, I talked to my coach at the school about it. And he was like, at J. Addison, yes. And he was like, I see that because I really liked it. When I visit Windsor, I really liked the people that I met.
Yeah.
Windsor is not the biggest city. It's not like Toronto or whatsoever. But I really liked the people that I met. And that for me was very important. So I talked to him about it. I was like, I'm considering this, but I still want to find a way for my parents to pay less money. Because staying here in Canada is a lot, and they don't give you full ride scholarships. So he was like, let me make a call, because I still want to look for opportunities for you in the States where you are more likely to get a full ride scholarship. So he called, this is February again, he called the coach at Brown University. And right the week before COVID in March, I went to visit Brown University.
And for the people who don't know, Brown is an Ivy League university.
It's an Ivy League school.
It's incredible, and it has a really good women's basketball program.
Well, they're in the rebuilding years. They're not too good right now.
Is it Division 1?
Yeah, it is Division 1.
Division 1 is pretty good.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yes, no, absolutely. So I was blown.
It's like the best of the best.
I had not expected that. Like, academically, you cannot ask for something so renowned, or it was crazy for me. So I was like, oh God, here we go. Yeah. Like, here you are showing off. Let's go. So I went to visit, came back, and then reviewed the numbers, reviewed everything, and just decided, okay, I'm going to take that opportunity, and I'm going to commit. The decision was based on going to Brown or staying and going to the University of Windsor. That was basically it. But as I'm telling you, we reviewed it, and I was like, no, Brown University makes more sense in a lot of ways, especially financially. So, however, the condition to go there was that I would verbally commit with them right there in March of 2020. I would take a grade 13 year. So here in Canada, you're allowed to do that in some schools. You can take an extra year of high school, because prior, like in the past, that was a requirement actually.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to do that, and my school was willing to do that, to offer me like another scholarship so I could stay another year, so I could play again and recover my confidence and get more playing experience.
That's what Brown wanted, so you can you can recover, and then they could really tell whether or not
that became the deal. That became the deal. Yes, like we're gonna
verbal commitment, which is not on paper.
Not on paper. It was a verbal commitment in March of 2020. I was gonna sign my papers in November of 2020.
When, for the people who don't know, only until November of a calendar year, you're able to physically sign an offer to play for the upcoming basketball year.
Exactly.
Even if they wanted to, they couldn't give you the papers.
No, they couldn't. Just
in March, but November. So you had to wait March to November, 3 to 11. You had to wait 8 months.
Yes.
Verbally, while maybe passing on the Windsor opportunity.
Exactly.
To be able to do what was on paper and financially better for you and your family.
Exactly.
The best option.
Exactly. Correct.
So what happened after?
So, so I decided to take that leap of faith. I mean, my other schools that were recruiting me, and including the University of Windsor, the coach told me, like, you're not signing yet. So if something happens, they can basically say, like, no, we don't want you anymore.
Wow.
And take the offer away. And I was like, yeah, but I'm willing to take the risk. I was like, I'll take the risk.
I've taken enough risk in my life.
I think so, yeah.
I'm comfortable with it. Yeah.
This is just one more.
Yeah.
So I decided to take the risk and then continue to recover. At that point, Stephan, I felt like I had taken a lot out of my shoulders. I was like, oof,
that's
here
what
we
you
are.
always wanted, Division 1.
I was like, here we are going into a good program, good school academically. I'm paying little to go and get such like good education.
Premium.
Exactly. Renowned, like worldwide. Like, this is awesome.
Ivy League is the best of the best. So even if you don't play basketball, which you want to, obviously, but
yeah.
It's Brown University. After that, it's game over. You're set for life.
Exactly.
So
I was like, wow, this is huge. Thank you, God. Here we go.
Yes.
So, May comes around. So we go into lockdown in March. I had made my decision. May comes around, and I get a call from the coach that recruited me. He was the assistant coach at Brown University, and he basically told me that the head coach had decided to step down. And the way it works in the NCAA is that when a head coach steps down, everybody under him or her is out of the program as well.
Wow.
So he basically told me, I mean, I will try to bring you wherever I go to, but the offer or keeping the offer there is basically going to be up to the new coach.
What?
So you will have to talk to her. So at that point, I was like, oh no, I don't want to hear this. So I got a call from the new coach probably like 2 weeks after that. And she told me, hey, Isabella, like I reviewed your information, your videos and all of that. And there's nothing against you. I really think you're a good player, but I don't need another point guard. Wow. So I really encourage you to look for other options. At that point, I remember hanging up on her and telling her, you know what, I truly appreciate the honesty because I don't want to go to a place where I'm not wanted.
Yeah.
But just know that you're really putting me in a very tough position because I'm playing here against the clock. And if I don't find anything, this means that I don't know what I'll do. I don't know. But appreciate the honesty, appreciate the encouragement. Thank you.
What did she say when you said that?
She was like, well, Isabella, I can tell from your character, I really believe you're going to end up somewhere, but I can't really take you. So how
many point guards did she have?
I don't really know. And at that point, I really didn't care either. She was like, just keep on pushing and I wish you the best.
Oh my
And
God.
I remember saying thank you so much. I did not cry during the call, but as soon as I hang up, I just threw myself in her bed and just cried my eyes out.
And another one, and your parents are there for you.
Another one. My parents were just outside the room, kind of hearing the conversation over. And at that point, I was again like, God, like,
why me? And another one. It's like another ACL tear.
Like, why so quick? Like, I was just getting back up from this last one, and boom, another. Feels like I'm fighting like boxing. It feels like going boom.
And not only that, but the Brown prospect was energy for your recovery.
Yes. So that just brought me to a point where, like, man, I remember that day I talked to my parents and I was like, Mom, I really don't know now what to do. And she was like, well, in all honesty, Isabella, I don't know either. I really don't. Like, we have gotten to a point where I don't know. But I truly do believe what she told you. I do believe that if you keep pushing, something's going to come up. And that kind of helped me to, as I said before, stay grounded and keep my faith going and saying, okay, God, you're going to open another door. I don't know how, but here we are. I'm going to stand up again and I'm going to keep on pushing, trusting that you will open something else. Because at this point,
or at least a window.
Yes, something else is going to come. Here we go. I told my Mom, don't you ever think that I'm going to give up. This is hard. This is hurting, but I'm going to keep on using this as fuel. If she's not going to take me, she's going to regret not having taken me.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what we're going to do, but I'll just promise you right now, I'll keep on pushing. So I've always told my parents that I actually, in the long run, I want to write a book. So I told my mom that day, these are just more pages to my book.
Yes.
I'll keep going. So
for your Netflix documentary.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see when we get there. So the summer goes by. Of course, I didn't play that summer basketball. I was too old at that point to do that because it was already my grade 12 year, in between grade 12 and 13.
You can't play AAU?
I think you can, but I don't think, given the circumstances, first, the borders here were not open.
Oh, yeah.
And second,
maybe they wouldn't even give you a spot if you can't be recruited?
Yes. Nobody here in Canada actually got to play that summer, unless you had a way to get into the States. But me being Venezuelan, I was not going to take that risk. So no, I ended up staying here, just worked on my recovery still, because I mean, we had gone into lockdown. That kind of set me back a little bit in what I wanted to do, especially getting that feel of the basketball court again. So I just focused on keep on recovering, and I was like, well, I'll have next season to still play and then find something, hopefully.
So you could play in grade 13.
Yes.
Under Jay Addison.
Under Jay Addison, exactly.
Okay.
So that was still on, and that became my focus, right? So we started practicing over the summer or whatnot, and preparing. The season is supposed to start normally in October, right? So we started preparing for October of 2020, but then lockdowns kept on extending, and by mid-October, early November, I knew we were not going to play. I was like, we're not going to have a season. This is not good, because that means no exposure whatsoever. And my coach kind of needed some film from me to be able to reach out to new coaches. And we were back to a spot of like, oh, what to do. When I told the coach at the University of Windsor that I had made my decision back in March, I ended up that relationship in very good terms. And I did so first because I value relationships.
Yeah.
Second, because I was very honest throughout the entire relationship. The moment Brown University reached out to me, I told her. I was like, I'm hearing from them, and I'm going to consider what they tell me. So I was very honest throughout the process. And when we ended up, when I told her my decision, she was like, if you ever need anything, and I mean it, I'm still here, so you can reach out. And I value that. And I believed it. I was like, I feel this is genuine, so I'll consider that. And I never forgot that. So I told you I really enjoyed my visit in Windsor because of the people. The team really embraced me when I went and visited. So that was huge for me. And my coach, going back now to October of 2020, had found some other opportunities in other Division III schools and smaller schools in the States. But even through Zoom calls and the communication I had with the programs, they were not as warm as I felt in Windsor.
That's big.
That's big. And throughout all those hits, so through the injury and then through COVID, whatever, I realized that the decision could not be based only on basketball. There's so much more that is involved in it, like your education. How far is your family going to be? Because now with COVID, you never know when you're going to see them again, and things like that. It really made me understand it's bigger than just basketball, right? So the more I thought about it, the more I was like, Windsor was actually a good choice.
You called her, and what is the conversation like? Yeah,
so I decided to reach out. It took me probably a month to call her. I had been thinking for that for the longest. I just didn't have the courage to call her, precisely because she had told me that
what was going to
happen. So I remember in November, I said, I don't care. This is being in my mind for too long. I'm going to call her. I called her, and I started a conversation like, hey, coach, I remember you told me like you genuinely care for me and that you're there if I need any advice. So I'm coming for advice because what you told me happened. So I started the conversation telling her, yeah, you told me. I had to be vulnerable and humble enough to say, yeah,
exactly.
It happened. So
what did she say when you said?
So she was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. She actually did show like, compassion and empathy for what had happened. But she told me the fact that you're calling me first shows a lot of your character, a lot of your courage, and second, just because of your grit and because of who you are or what I've seen from you, I know that you're gonna end up somewhere. So don't worry about you not finding an opportunity, because something is gonna come. What I would recommend, I call her basically to ask for advice, like what should I do? Like, what would you recommend I would do to find an opportunity? She was like, keep on touching doors, so keep on reaching out to schools and surround yourself with people that will help you in that sense. That was her recommendation. And then she kind of mentioned, like, I don't know if you're still considering Windsor or whatnot. And at that point I was like, boss, coach, if you actually offer me something again and we can work it out financially, I won't look anywhere else.
Now, let's sign right now.
Let's do it right now. So then she was like, oh, that's awesome, because I was actually not able to find the point guard that I wanted to find, like a good point guard for the program. So this just comes like perfect. So I was like, that's God's timing right there.
Like, no honestly, more.
Yes,
your point guard.
Here it is. So she was like, hey, let me just see what I can find for you, like financially, and we'll go from there. Ironically, and this is why I always say that God's timing is perfect, this time that she put together scholarships, she was able to find more money than she did the first time. So that for in one side, and the other side, something that came better this time than the first time is that initially I thought I wanted to go for school for business and computer science. But in all honesty, I reflected on that and I was like, okay, what do I see myself doing with that? And it was basically like a 9-to-5 job and a computer. No, that's not Isabella. That's not me. Throughout the injury and the things that I did over that year, I realized that I'm very passionate in giving back to people. And as I told you, inspire other people to then pursue their dreams. And the opportunities that you have here in the sports industry are huge. So I was like, totally. I want to stay in the sports industry. So
good.
So it gave me time to realize what I really feel passionate about. And I changed my mind. I was like, it only makes sense that I would go and study something related to it. Yeah. So I decided to apply for kinesiology. So
that's so you.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why, like, if I had not taken that extra year, I wouldn't have the credits, the high school credits that I needed to get into kinesiology. I wouldn't have changed my mind, probably. It would have been a lot of money at the beginning. So it just worked out perfectly. And that's when I said, God, you're showing up now. Now it's time. This is great.
I love it. I love it.
So, I mean, that together with the impact that, let's say, my story or my journey has had in those around me is something that would have not come if I wouldn't have faced each of those barriers, or I don't want to call it obstacles, because I always say that obstacles are obstacles only if you perceive them as such.
Yeah, that's true.
But each of those little bumps that I hit, those hits that I called, the pages to my book, whatever you want to call it, like, I wouldn't be who I am today, or have had the impact if they wouldn't have happened.
Totally. So
I just really think it all lines up according to how it's supposed to line up, according how God writes your story, whether you believe it or not. I mean, I think it all comes down to you being able to recognize, yes, like, this is happening for a reason. Whatever's happening in my life is happening for a reason, and it's part of my story, of the bigger picture of things. And the key becomes then embracing it, being able to then embrace whatever comes, and use it to whatever you find meaning in your life, whatever you find your purpose is, right? So
Tony Robbins says that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
There you go.
And I agree with that. I mean, I think you would have seen the glass half full anywhere you went to.
Yeah.
Because that's your personality. It just happened that, I mean, there's been a lot of bumps on the road, but it makes you who you are. Like I told you, you're very mature for your age, and it's not normal. To me, the moment where I was like, Because when I met your mom,
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, my daughter, she's so." I'm like, here we go. Every mom thinks their kids are amazing.
Yeah.
She plays basketball. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay. She likes to like throw the ball around. No, she played for Venezuela. I'm like, oh, okay. She came here. She did that. She blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm starting to see like a lot of determination because you don't just go to other countries and play in the States.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let me just. I'm like, she seems like a very cool. What's her Instagram? Okay, and then when I saw it, I just needed to see a couple of posts, and I'm like, I need to interview Isabella. But the moment was the next chapter video, and to me, this is where I think you're like 45 years old in terms of maturity or more, because sometimes 60-year-olds are very immature. I thought that when I was I thought that when I turned 18, when I was like 5 or 10, I'm like, oh, 18-year-olds have it all figured out.
Yeah,
you know,
they know everything. Yeah,
and now I see my parents and I see my grandparents. I'm like, it never ends. Like, we still have layers where we're immature and very mature, and it's just a process. But to me, where I'm like, she is decades ahead of the game is when you said in the video, basketball is something I do, not who I am. And that was like, oh, she knows some shit I don't. She knows some shit a lot of people don't.
Yes.
And to me, that I came to that realization through my injury, and I've worn a lot of hats because one of the shadows of being so determined and committed is that it becomes your identity. And you can't half-ass it. You know, you have to be committed in anything you do. So to me, I was a soccer guy for many years until this happened. Then I graduated. I got into Scotiabank for 7 years, where I became one of the youngest managers and senior managers in the entire bank.
Wow.
I was the banking guy, you know?
Yeah.
I was also the party guy, living downtown, like living large, that condo, traveling. And then in 2017, I quit my job.
Yeah.
To be a comedian full time, and then I'm the comedian full time. You know, I'm like, I perform, I'm funny, and blah blah blah, and I'm doing videos online. But then the pandemic hits, and you know, like, who am I if I'm not performing? If I'm not a comedian? And then I realized I'm more than just a blank. You know, more than an athlete, like LeBron says, more than a basketball player, more than a comedian, more than a banker.
Yes,
and I'm like, yeah, I'm also a dad. I'm also a husband.
Yes,
I'm also a high performer. I'm also a runner.
Yes,
I'm also a son. I'm also a friend. I love productivity. I love vulnerability. I'm also a teacher in public speaking and comedy. But my Instagram was like, oh, like if I don't post anything that's gonna make people laugh, like, oh, they're not gonna like it. They're not gonna like me.
Unfollow.
They're gonna unfollow me. So I'm like, fuck it. I don't care. Like, I'm just gonna be me.
There you go.
And then one of the things that I'm a big studier. I study a lot of high performers, people who have achieved great things in life. And the common denominator, like, there's many obviously, but people who accomplish great things in life don't do them by mitigating their weaknesses. Although you obviously have to mitigate them to perform at a specific level.
Yes.
At a high level. But they achieve great things in life by doubling down on their strengths.
Yeah.
Because you're born with a specific set of skills.
Yes.
That if you double down, like, even if I tried the hardest in my life, the hardest, I can't beat Usain Bolt in a 100-meter race.
Absolutely not.
Like, unless he's like has a torn ACL,
injured or something,
and in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But even like, he could try his like level 50, and I'll try my 100, and maybe I still won't beat him. But maybe in comedy he won't, or like, you just really have to double down on the things where you have a comparative advantage on, and because you're passionate about them, you'll be good.
Yes.
Or because you're good, because you have a natural predisposition to these, you'll be passionate about it because you're good. It's like the chicken and the egg.
Yes.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to double down on what I love be myself. And like
huge.
Naval says, you escape competition through authenticity.
Authenticity. That's a big word.
And then I'm like, I'm just going to be myself. And Scott Adams, who's one of my favorite authors, the creator of Dilbert, he says, you want to make it like there's two routes to be incredible in life. One, be the best at one thing. But that's really, really hard. You can't really.
And rare.
It's like you can't. There's so many like Michael Jordans or Usain Bolts, you know? Or you can be really good, top 25 percentile, in 2 or 3 things, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of been my MO. Like, I'm really good at comedy.
Yeah.
I'm really good in business because I was at the bank for 7 years.
Yeah.
I'm really good in learning. That's my one of my biggest assets. So I study high performers. I'm really disciplined, and I'm also really good with like communication. So guess what I do? I'm a corporate communication coach. I'm a comedian, and the business aspect really helps me in monetizing these two.
Yes.
And then I'll never leave the sports side, which I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So it's really good. And then the other realization that I did that I want to ask you about is, you kind of already mentioned it, but for the majority of my life until I realized it, I was deriving self-worth from achievement. You know, if happiness was if I made it to be a pro soccer player. Yeah. Or happiness equals if I make it to Netflix and do a comedy special.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's like Tony Robbins says, a life of achievement without fulfillment is a very sad life.
And it's empty.
Yeah, it's a very sad. And what Tony Robbins says, it says, I used to achieve to be happy. Now I happily achieve. And the ACL tear is the epitome of this. Because there's no achievement in sports without an ACL.
Yeah, no.
So it really grounds you, and that's where I learned patience. And it's not about my timeline. It's about when it's going to happen. And there's a lot of things I can't control. So to summarize, the more you derive your happiness and your self-worth from external things that you really can't control, or like achievement, but how often do you like buy a house or graduate or get recruited, you know, like, or have a huge party, or like, it's how often do you, I don't know, get like a trophy, you know, like achievements is not as recurring. So you need to fill those gaps with happiness.
Yes.
So the more you derive your happiness from external things, you're going to run into trouble.
Yeah.
It has to come internally.
Yes.
And happiness is a skill, and peace is a skill. And so reading, exercise, meditation, journaling, all these little things, gratitude is huge. What's your experience been in terms of deriving happiness and peace and satisfaction, not from basketball related things? How have you navigated this journey?
Wow, that's you touch on so many important things, and I first just want to comment on that before like really answering your question. But like authenticity, oh my gosh, that has been part of my answer. Like realizing that I'm here to be me. Like that I'm here.
And sometimes we stop being ourselves in North America as well.
Oh, I catch myself like that all the time.
Yeah.
I like literally not too long ago, I was not having like the best of times at university. Like I was just adjusting to the new pace of all of that. And I found myself questioning, why am I here? Like it went back to, even though you see my journey, all of that, this is what I've been pursuing. But yeah, like things like that keep on happening. Like if we can easily lose track of that. Like
Very
lose
easy.
Sight of whatever we feel is our purpose, or yes, mainly our purpose. I think we easily lose sight of it. Yeah, that's where I'm going. So I think for me, to answer your question now, I think realizing that I'm here to be me.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. You just have to be you, has been huge to then just be happy with whatever happens. As long as I know that I'm being me, that I'm sticking to who I am. Now, then the question becomes, like, who are you then? How did you define yourself? And that's another thing.
That's another podcast.
Yes, we can just have another episode about that. But I think it really boils down to, as you're saying, finding things to be grateful for each and every day.
Yeah.
That's something that's the first thing I do every morning. I make sure I write down, I journal. I like journaling. So I write down, thank you, Lord, for X, Y, or Z. Whether it is a meal that we had last night. Being alive, having a roof over my something. I just look for a reason to be thankful for. And that already kind of puts me in a different tone, in a
definitely
in a position
of abundance,
where I'm like,
not scarcity.
Yes, where I'm like, I'm blessed, I'm lucky to be here. Let's kick off this day on a good note. But yeah, I just think it really comes back to realizing you just have to be you wherever you go.
And that's the best bet. That's the best bet. Because nobody is better at being you than you.
Than you, absolutely. And then looking for, when you struggle, when you find yourself in times where you're not feeling fulfilled, or where you're just not happy, then what I do is retrospect. So why? Why is it that I'm feeling like this? And then I try to look for reasons then that I would know that would make me happy. So let's just put it into an example. I was not so excited that my birthday that just happened was a Tuesday during exams. Because I knew that my teammates, which were like the people that I was planning on spending my day with, were not going to be available. Yeah. So I was like, internally, I was like, why? Why right now? Why not during the weekend? It's a Tuesday, the first exam week. Like, no, nobody's going to want to do anything. And a bunch of my teammates had exams. So I was like, okay, am I going to let that rob my birthday happiness? No. So with whoever I share, I'm going to enjoy that day. And I'm going to intentionally look for reasons to be grateful and happy for another year of life. So what did I do? I first looked back at what this year was. And what did I learn? What are things that old Isabella didn't have that now she has? I'm here at the university. I finally figured what I was going to do with my life.
You're on the Stephan Dyer Podcast?
I was invited, so at that point I was looking forward to it. I'm playing basketball and I'm healthy.
You're healthy right now. Oh, that is so important.
And I'm healthy right now. So I think it just, you gotta look for it. It's there.
Anytime I play soccer and we could lose 14-0 and I leave the game, I'm like, but I didn't get injured.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
It's so good.
Exactly. And yes, it's just being intentional with actually finding those reasons is huge. It's very important. But you got to have the disposition and the desire to do that. But yes.
Really, really good. Mm-hmm. Before we wrap up, did you watch The Last Dance? Of course you did.
Oh, yes.
What was your favorite part? The Last Dance documentary starring Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking.
Dennis Rodman, Phil Jackson.
Ooh, now that you I had not reflected on this, but now that I think about it, I think what really moved me or touched my life from that documentary was the fact that Jordan did not become Jordan alone. Wow, so just, and even hearing it from him, he says this there. Like he gives credit to Scottie Pippen, to Rodman, for the success that he had. So just realizing that actually Jordan, yes, he's considered the best of all times. And yes, he had a lot of natural talent and he was so skilled. He seems like he's not human. But first, he is human.
Yeah, he is human.
And second, he did not become who he was without his teammates, without all the sacrifices that they did for him, or without the receptiveness that their teammates have of having just him being the superstar and all of that. I think just realizing that you don't make it alone is huge.
Yeah, I really liked. You'd think that for a coach who has won so much, they'd be like arrogant or whatever, but the stoicness of Phil Jackson,
Yes.
and the yoga and the meditation and the rituals and the humanity that he embodied, I just loved, and for him to not treat players differently, but in many ways recognize how different they were to be able to get the most out of them.
Yes.
Was so good. Obviously, it makes for a good story, because if he did that and lost every game, like, we wouldn't be talking about
Yes.
Phil Jackson. But he is Phil Jackson.
Yes.
And so you're currently attending the University of Windsor
Yes.
and playing for the Lancers women basketball team. I saw on your sweater, like 5 national championships.
Oh yes, that's
That's amazing.
that's a holding record still.
And how have they done in past years before the pandemic?
Before the pandemic, so they were still nationally ranked in the top 10 teams in the nation, but since 2015, I believe, was the last. No, 2016. Sorry, was the last national championship that the team won, and well, our goal right now is to kind of get back to that, especially having a whole new cohort of players. I mean, our team, if you look at our roster, we're all babies in the sense
Really?
that we're all very, very young. Yes, I think only 3 players had wore a Windsor jersey before.
Wow, is it a 12 player roster, same as in the NBA?
We currently have 14 in our roster, but only 12 dress up.
Okay.
So yes, out of those 14, only 3 had played before. So 11 are brand new Windsor players.
Wow.
We have a couple CJEP girls that, in Quebec,
Yes.
CJEP, you play like college level, but it's still a different league. It's not the same as U Sports. So yes, 11 of us adjusting to a whole new thing.
What's it? How's that experience been, and do you feel a big responsibility when representing Venezuela abroad?
I do. I really do. And honestly, I started to feel it even more after my injury, precisely because the way that we approached the injury, so the videos that we shared, the more I started to share a bit more of my story, the more I felt like people cared, or people were like, oh, Isabella must perform all the time good. And I do have to admit that affected me a little bit right now, getting back to playing. Like, I felt like I found myself second guessing a lot of the decisions I made and really caring about like my personal numbers or whatnot. But it's something that I'm learning to now embrace, as of like, I'm still Isabella. Like, I'm still the player that I used to be. Like, of course, I've grown in experience, and that has made me, let's say, a better player. Let's say when it comes to skills and all that. But I'm still a player. Like, I will still make mistakes. I will still fail, if that's what you think that's failure. But in my eyes, that's not failure. So I'll just keep on doing my job, giving my very best, and I know that by doing that, I'm succeeding at what I want to do.
Exactly, and that'll carry momentum, because again, the external stuff.
Yes,
I mean, it's great. It's great, and in the context of Venezuela, because my wife is Venezuelan and I'm surrounded by Venezuelans. Anything that happens with a Venezuelan in the context of success, it's like a national pride, because there's so much sadness and poverty and in the context of geopolitically of what Venezuela has gone through. A lot of these people, like I said, they didn't immigrate because they wanted to. They immigrated because they had to.
They had to, yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't know, but Venezuela, like 40 years ago, was like the best in Latin America. Like, nobody in Venezuela wanted to leave. In
Heck
fact,
no.
people were going into Venezuela. Like, my parents talked about Venezuela. My parents are Peruvian. Like, the place to be, you know? And I mean, it's how you see it. It's humbling, it's hard, but that's when you find out who you really are.
Yes.
And again, I'm happy that you're inspiring others to know that it's possible, you know, because a lot of eighth graders or 10th graders or 12th graders are like, oh, did you know Isabella is right now in Canada playing university?
Yes.
University level. If she can make it, then we can make it.
Yes.
And that is huge. That's your legacy in many ways.
Oh, that for me is just, I just imagine that, and it just fills me up. It just touches me very, very deeply. Like, just knowing that
you're bridge building.
Yes. And in the long run, that's what I want to do. Like, to tell you a bit of what I have planned for, like, my future. The reason why I want to stay within the sports industry or this side of things is because I want to give other kids the opportunity to live what I had, what I got to live, right? So to get a proper lifestyle outside of their home country. Like, my target is third nation countries, so countries that actually need that support. So my target is not, let's say, kids in the States, even though you still find kids that need opportunity. But
I get what you mean. In the third world, like, it's not, you can't. I mean, there is poverty in the States, but percentage wise,
exactly, it's just
rampant poverty. It's worse in Latin America.
It's different. So I really want to give other,
and that's
kids,
where you're from. It's like it
brings
holds a
lot.
space in your heart.
Yes. So I want to give kids that opportunity to have a good lifestyle, have an education, a proper education, and just develop in their sports outside of or in a good environment, let's say. So I don't know how I'm going to get there. Definitely it's a big goal.
But you will.
But I really want to. And in my mind, as of now, it's just having a school. I really want to have a school. And
in Venezuela or here?
Probably here. But be a school that then brings kids here.
That'd be amazing.
And boarding school or something like that. I don't know if you have heard of IMG Academy.
No.
They're in a school in Bradenton, in Florida. They're huge, like huge. I call it Disneyland for any athlete. You should see their campus. But I want to have something similar to what they have. Their campus is huge. But that acts as a mediator in that sense. That brings kids over and give them that chance.
Have you watched? Do you know who Patrick Mouratoglou is?
No.
He's the coach of Serena Williams, and he has his own academy in Nice, in France, in the south of France. Mm-hmm. But his story is insane. Have you watched the documentaries of coaches on Netflix?
No,
Doc Rivers, female coaches in the NCAA. Patrick Mouratoglou is part of this. Mourinho, soccer coach as well. There are 5 of them, and 2 of them are NCAA coaches.
Oh, wow.
Women coaches.
Yes.
Basketball coaches.
Yes. Pat Summitt, you mentioned?
I don't know if it was her.
Okay.
But it's 2.
That's okay. Yeah.
It's like a master class. And the reason why I'm mentioning Patrick Mouratoglou is because he wanted to become a pro athlete. He got to a point where he says, or in many ways, that his parents didn't support him. But anyways, he ended up creating this school. And through many things, while not knowing how to coach, he says sometimes it's better to not know how to coach because you find things in the process that if you went to a coaching school or whatever, then you would just fall under this box of a set of things. But look him up. It's like a master class.
I will.
On coaching, on mental toughness, on high performance, and a lot of humanity as well.
That's awesome.
And the last question of this episode is the champagne question.
Champagne.
And the champagne question, every guest gets this question.
Okay.
The question is, if we were to meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating in Isabella's life?
Oh, wow. Wow, that's an amazing question.
So late December 2022.
Okay. What are we celebrating in Isabella's life? I think we're
apart from a birthday that lands on a weekend.
Yes. I think we would celebrate Isabella taking chances and getting out of her comfort zone. I think because that's where I'm headed, or that's going to be my motto, let's call it, of next year, of 2022. I want to get out of my comfort zone, and I want to take new challenges that I believe would make me a better person. Now, I could elaborate more on my goals if that's what you want.
Yeah, and like what areas?
Yes. So one of my main goals, actually, I want to start a podcast of my own. So I want to keep on sharing more of my journey, and especially my vision behind the podcast is to share the experiences that have left an important lesson in my life, because I believe that we can learn from each other.
Yeah, success.
Like I could learn from you without being or going through the experience that you went through. Just hearing it from you, right? So that's my main goal through it, and that's what I want to do. So that's one of my goals. I hope we can celebrate that. Just the fact that I get started. I don't care about numbers. I don't care about whether I'm making money through it or not.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I just care about building the discipline and staying
the fulfillment, not the achievement. Yeah,
exactly, and staying constant with it. So that's one. And well, second, in school, I also want to take some opportunities. With that, it remains kind of uncertain just because of the circumstances.
Like academically or basketball related?
Basketball related. Our goal is next season then to get to at least the finals of the OUA. So that is something, though, we wouldn't know next year. We would technically know 2023 because our season ends in March.
Okay.
So that's why I couldn't be celebrating that with you in December. But yeah, first, the goal of the podcast, I would say. Academically, I'm not going to describe too much because I don't know what is going to happen with the uncertainty of COVID. And third, basketball related, I do want to celebrate just if we get to meet each other in a year, just the fact of being an important piece of my team, being healthy and playing. That's it.
Yes, being healthy
and playing. That's it. Like
and playing. Yes,
enjoying the fact that I get to play. So
and I think that's the secret to happiness, like being in the present. Right now, I'm reading a book called The Power of Now, and one of the things he says.
Oh, I have that book. I just haven't started it.
It's slow, but it's so good if you give it some chance.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's slow for me because I love like things that happen in real life. You know,
Yes.
like I'm all about my achievement brain wants to learn and just apply it and be more productive and more efficient and more smart. But in these types of abstract things,
Yes.
you have to let go.
Yeah.
So one of the things he says is there is no past or present. I mean, there is no past or future.
Yes.
It's only the present, and the
Yes.
past and the future live in the present.
Exactly.
So if don't think about yesterday or tomorrow, because all we have is now.
Is now.
I mean, obviously easier said than done. There's a lot of things, other things he says in the book, but it's really helped me. And another thing that I'm not spoiling it is that we are not our minds. Like, sometimes I feel guilty or bad or sad because of some self-sabotaging thoughts that I have. But the mind is its own thing.
Yes.
It's not you. Like, Isabella is not your thoughts.
Yes.
Like, your brain has its own power, and we've evolved. As humans, we've evolved to reward pessimism. Because 1,000 years ago, if you said, there's a tiger under that, behind that bush, and I said, nah, it's okay, there's no tiger. 9 out of 10 times, you'll survive.
Yeah.
And only one, I'll survive because there may be a tiger. So in order to protect and evolve, we've had to be pessimistic of all these threats. But today's world, it's much more safer. But our brain hasn't gotten so used to 2021, and it's still for thousands of years evolved to be pessimistic. And mitigate all these threats that don't necessarily exist today. So the brain has its own life, but that's not Isabella. Like a lot of people say they want peace of mind, like a peaceful mind, but what they really want is peace from mind.
Yes.
Because when you're playing basketball, you're not thinking, "Oh, I should have sent that email." Like when you're at the surfing on top of the wave, you're not like, "Oh, I should have said goodbye to that other person yesterday," or maybe I should have responded. You're present.
Yes,
that's why a lot of people love to do extreme sports, because they're not thinking.
Yes,
they're in it.
Yes.
So, just playing. I think that's another big reason why it's an escape to people. Like the sports becomes an escape. You end up loving it a lot because you're very present.
Yeah.
Obviously, it releases chemicals that are really good to feel good, and it makes you healthier.
Yeah.
But I wish you all the best. I hope we can meet up in a year.
Yes, no, for sure.
With a bottle of champagne.
I'll bring the champagne.
Yes,
I'll bring my favorite.
It'll be really good. We can have your mom this time. She'll have passed her exam.
Yes.
Her driving test. Your dad is going to be good. Your brother is going to be killing it as well. Well, we've come to the end. An hour and 47 minutes.
Oh,
it was so good that we ended up being here almost double the allotted time. And you know what? We're going to play the entire thing. We're not going to cut a single thing. Any closing remarks?
No, I just want to take the opportunity to really thank you for this. I take a lot from this. I don't know, like, if anybody out there, I really hope that people out there that listen to this really benefit from it. But
yes.
I'm just grateful for the opportunity, because this was also mentoring for me. So I just want to thank you for that. And yeah, I really hope I get to see you soon again.
Same. Well, my friends, Isabella Anés and Stephan Dyer on the Stephan Dyer Podcast. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer Podcast. Arrivederci, my people.